Hello, good to have you back. In one of my recent episodes, I was merely commenting on a shape that we Wing Chun practitioners use quite often a little further down in a Wing Chun journey. And I was merely talking about the Kwan Sao movement. And my comment was about the Kwan Sao movement. Should we have it aligned? Meaning, should the wrists be aligned to where if you drew a line from the wrist, upper wrist to my lower wrist, that would be like a straight line? Or can it be a little wider where that doesn't happen to be the case? And I know a lot of people are very pragmatic, or dogmatic rather, about their Wing Chun techniques and proper shapes. So just to emphasize my point, I'm going to use a wooden dummy, and a wooden dummy can't lie. You see that many times it's impossible to use a precise geometrical value or ascribe a geometrical value to a certain technique. Yes, we do aspire in our forms to emphasize the proper structure and the correct angle, but when it comes to practice, it all depends what the opponent is giving us. And I'll explain what I mean. Okay, let me give you an example here on a wooden dummy. If I place a Bong Sao, well, this hand is lower than this hand, obviously. For me to put a Bong Sao here would require less effort than from this side. Why is that? Simply because of the elevation of this arm. This arm is lower, and then my Bong Sao stays lower. It's almost like that perfect Bong Sao from the form where we have it straight arm and we have it in front of us. This one is just a little lower. Granted, this wooden dummy is a little tall for me. I have another one in my exercise room, and that has more proper dimensions for my type of a body. But this one still works. So compare it to this Bong Sao here. It brings it higher. Okay, this one keeps it lower. This one would bring my Bong Sao higher. Now it's pretty much straight. Okay, so you'll see like the variations from the Bong Sao vary. There's a slight difference between these two. If you go to a low Bong Sao, now we're talking a different game. So you have this Bong Sao variations from here, 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 and anywhere in between, in my opinion, because if I had another arm, these arms represent strikes. If I had another arm here, if somebody gives me a punch like this, maybe I need to go to a medium Bong Sao. So these are all just representations of strikes, and it can be at any elevation coming to your body, and you need to adapt. Conversely, if we are talking about placing this Bong Sao here on this other side, now this is a slightly different elevation from this one. Oh, this one. This one is even higher. Because of the arm under, I need to go over, and then brings my elbow higher, and I need to adjust accordingly. It actually raises my shoulder a little bit, not too bad, but still raises my shoulder. So we will see that the variations of your Bong Sao change. Okay, so now let's talk about Tan Sao. If I put a Tan Sao in here, in between, I have a pretty decent Tan Sao, pretty similar to the one in the form. If I go on the outside here, it pretty much reflects the same shape, except due to the structure, due to the limits and the narrow structure of this wooden dummy, this Kwan Sao tends to be more inside, or my elbow needs to go deeper. Otherwise, if I keep my elbow out like this, the punch goes over my bridge and hits me. So I need to control it from the inside. If I'm going on the outside, my elbow is sticking out. From this side. See, my elbow is sticking more out in order to control this arm. If I'm closer, then the elbow comes in closer. This is the pressure that the dummy is giving me. If I was to go too wide now, if I'm that close, now again, the opponent would have the ability to go across my bridge, press me down, and would be on top of me. He would be controlling me. So here I'm adjusting my elbow. So now we want to rather compensate with the distance and have a good shape here. But if the strike is coming too fast from a very close distance into your body, sometimes you don't have time to make that wide angle. You just need to adjust and bring your elbow closer and assume a proper structure. So as you can see, your Kwan Sao even goes from this ideal position to this. As in a form, sometimes we put it in the center, in the middle, which would be in case we are very close and we need to go deeper in. So even Kwan Sao varies from this position to this position. But the important aspect of the Kwan Sao is spreading. This hand spreads, does not withdraw. It goes forward to a certain limit. We don't want to make it too straight because it loses the Kwan Sao shape. You want to have that elbow bent, right? And it can go here, it can go here, depending on what the opponent gives you. Similarly on this side, I might need to actually make if I'm closer, make even a smaller angle. What I mean by smaller, it's more steep angle because I'm deeper versus this angle, which is the ideal angle, 130, whatever the measure is, 132 and a half or whatever. Now if I'm closer, I need to go here. This is a much better structure, unless I can go past the opponent and then I can control it up to this with my forearm. It just all depends again on the context. When it comes to a Kwan Sao movement, same principles apply, because Kwan Sao or Bong Sao, Kwan Sao, depending on what you call it. Kwan Sao typically talks about this rotation. But if you are just coming from this angle, there is no internal rotation like we do. You're just coming from the outside and you have the same shape without the rotation, just with the churning. So this would be Kwan Sao, Bong Sao. So what are we talking about? Kwan Sao, Kwan Sao, Bong Sao, same principles apply, obviously, because those are the same hands, Bong Sao and Kwan Sao. So if I'm closer in, my shifting is going to be less and my hands are pretty much aligned. If we drew a straight line from my top wrist through this arm here and my low wrist, pretty much straight line. Same here. Okay, because now we are in pretty tight quarters, real proximity to the opponent, and we're dealing with narrow angle punches. Now if I was to do a Kwan Sao on this side, however, so I'm turning this way. I need to get out of the way. Look at the shape of my Kwan Sao. The opponent's hand determine where my Kwan Sao is going to end. And if I made a smaller step, I require wider shifting. So now my top arm in Kwan Sao is very narrow like this. My low arm is extended to protect against this punch or strike down there, right? So it's a very weird position I end up in, but this is the best way I can control. If I was to bring, I can't even bring it closer now. I'm completely collapsed. If I was to aspire to bring my arms in alignment, so now this Kwan Sao is completely collapsed, and it's very easy to imagine that this strike is coming straight into me and I wouldn't be able to block. Okay. Now if we are looking at Kwan Sao on this side, so I'm going here, you will see a similar situation. Not as deep, this Kwan Sao is not as deep. I had to adjust a little to be able to control both arms. But my angle is not as deep as the other one. If I was to go further away to make that perfect Kwan Sao angle, now my lower Bong Sao does not have the ability to reach this arm. So I wouldn't be able to do that. I need to go deeper. Now I have contact, but now my angle is deeper, right? And I end up with this position in the Kwan Sao versus this one. So you see, it's all contextual. When we are trying to put all these techniques in a box and always try to say that only one way works, we are in error, no matter what lineage we're coming from. So if you're just so assertive about your Kwan Sao must be only like this and there's no other way to throw the Kwan Sao. I just demonstrated to you that Kwan Sao can go from here to all the way, just like in the form that some lineages use, where the elbow is completely in. Same with a Bong Sao. So Bong Sao can be low, Bong Sao can be at the middle of your body, or Bong Sao can be higher. Now, if it goes too high, it's not a Bong Sao anymore. We turn it into a punch. We have much more control. Otherwise, the opponent slips under us. So, and the same thing with that Kwan Sao. So Kwan Sao can be wider, can be narrower if the punch is coming closer to our bodies, right? This Kwan Sao can be steeper, with almost like V-looking shape. Ideally, you want to have it pretty much at this position, right? But as you can see, the wooden dummy or your opponent will determine what shape your techniques would come in, all depending on what the opponent is feeding you. Thank you. I hope this was educational. Hope it was of help. See you next time. Have a great day.